Okay, welcome to the video on solving level 4 speed problems. So everything for level 4 problems is going to involve manipulating the equation somehow. So we know we have this equation, s is equal to distance divided by time. Okay, now level 4 questions are going to ask you to solve for either time or distance, and will usually give you the speed number. So it's not as easy as just taking the two numbers and dividing them. You have to substitute the problems in. So this is why we have our 5-step problem solving steps, because this step becomes really, really important so that you substitute correctly. So if you know your knowns and you know your unknowns, okay, and on these speed problems, this equation is always going to be the same until I make it more complicated and add another equation. But for now, you know you're going to use that equation. Now the problem is that you're going to have to substitute stuff. And if you substitute correctly, then you can use your wonderful math skills that most of you guys have at solving for your unknown. Okay? So let's just go through a couple different examples. Okay, this first example, we're going to use this problem right here. You are driving at a speed of 2 meters per second. You drive for 200 seconds. What is the distance that you drove? So we're going to use our 5-point problem solving process here and make sure we do all 5 steps. The first step, even if you have no idea how to solve the problem, the first step should be to just take your numbers and rewrite them. Okay, because it just helps. Hold on. Okay, because it just kind of helps you keep things organized. So I'm going to take my 2 meters per second and my 200 seconds, and I'm going to rewrite those down. So I have 2 meters per second and 200 seconds. And I'm going to say they're equal to something. And I'm also going to have something that's unknown. And I'm going to have a question mark for my unknown. Okay? Now, the second step I'm going to do is I'm going to write my equation. And I'm going to write that before I even say what these things are equal to. So I kind of know what I'm working with. So I have s is equal to distance divided by time. So I know I'm going to have an s, a d, or a t. So I'm going to look at these units and give me some clues. I'm also going to look up at the reading to give me a clue. So it says speed of 2 meters per second. Well, I know from class that meters per second means it's a speed, but my problem also tells me that it's a speed. So I'm going to say that 2 meters per second is equal to s. Okay. Then I'm going to look at my 200 meters, 200 seconds. So the problem doesn't actually tell me it's a time, but I know my units s mean time. So I'm going to write t for time here. Which means, well, I've got my speed, I've got my t, which means my d is my question mark. Also looking up at the problem, I see that it's asking distance. What is the distance you drove? So I know that's my unknown. So my next step, now that I've got everything organized, I'm ready to do my next step, which is to substitute. So instead of s equals d over t, I'm going to say 2 meters per second, because instead of s, I'm writing 2 meters per second, is equal to distance. Well, I don't know distance, so I'm going to keep that a d. And my time is 200 seconds. So instead of t, I'm going to write 200 seconds. Now I need to use my math skills. So now I'm at step 4 where I'm going to solve. To solve this out, I need to multiply each side by 200. So I need to multiply 200s times 200s on both sides. Ooh, some crazy stuff's happening here. Hold on. All right, there we go. I think I've solved it. So I need to multiply both sides by 200s. I'm kind of running out of space here on my iPad. Cross those out because they cancel each other. I'm going to multiply this side by 200s. So I get 200s times 2 meters per second. Cross out my s's to show that they canceled. And 200 times 2 is 400 meters. Notice my unit that's left. And there's my final answer. Okay. So let's do a little bit harder problem. Okay. So, new problem. This time the units aren't going to be the nice pretty meters and second units. We're going to try some different units out on you. Okay, so reading the problem, a person is running at 10 kilometers per hour. He went 2 kilometers. What is the time it takes to go? So again, I'm going to follow all my steps, but to save space, I'm going to put my side steps on the side so I have space to write. So I'm going to first collect my numbers. My first number is 10 kilometers per hour. So I'm going to write 10 kilometers per hour equals, and then my other number is 200 kilometers. So I'm going to write 200 kilometers equals, and then I'm going to write my equation over here. S is equal to D over T. And then I'm going to think about my units. Kilometers per hour. Well, I know that when I see a distance and a time in my units, and sometimes in the problem it'll tell me that it says it's a speed. This problem didn't do that for me today. Okay, that's what makes these kind of hard. But I know that this is a speed because of the unit. It's a kilometers per hour. Kilometers tells me that that's a distance. So I'm going to say that's equal to D, which means T is my question mark. I don't know what T is. So now I'm going to do my substitution. So instead of S, I'm going to write 10 kilometers per hour. And I'm going to say that's equal to 200 kilometers divided by T, which is my question mark. There are multiple ways to solve this problem using algebra. You can set it as a proportion and try to find what T is. You can do this. These numbers are nice. You can say 200 divided by what equals 10, and you can figure those out because the number is easy. When I see problems like this, I know that a good trick is just to switch the numbers. That I can put T up there and move 10 down here. Okay? The algebra way to do this, which is the long way, but I'm going to prove it to you on this video, is that first thing, I need to get T by itself. Problem is that it's at the bottom of a division problem. So what I need to do is I need to first multiply both sides by T to get T kind of on the top. So I'm going to cancel out my T's on there, and I'm going to multiply T over here. So now I have the problem of 10T equals 200. Now you know how to do this. You divide both sides by 10, and you get T equals 200 divided by 10. Notice that's the same thing as just swapping these guys. Put T where the 10 kilometers per hour is and put 10 where the T is. Notice it's the same thing. See, swapping this and this ends up being the same thing. All right, so now I'm going to do the math. I have 200 kilometers per hour, and I want to divide it. So because it's divided, I'm going to put it down here and make that a kilometer over 1, because 1 can be anything. Notice, okay, I made a mistake, but I don't have time to fix it in the video, so you're just going to have to live with my mistake. Oh boy. Okay, let's do this again. So I'm back to the step where I've got 200 divided by 10, but I wanted to show you how to do it with the units. So I'm going to take 200 kilometers and divide it by 10 kilometers per hour. Notice that my kilometers cancel, and I'm left with just my units of hour on top. Okay, so 200 divided by 10 is 20. Yes. So we're equal to 20 seconds. My last step is to make sure, oh, I made a mistake. It's actually hours. So my unit is hours. Okay. And then put a box around it, because my last step is to check my units, and I checked my units and I realized I made a mistake. So my final answer is 20 hours.